Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Muskan, your host and your host for the podcast series The Journeys presented by Insightner. Welcome to today's podcast where we have the pleasure of speaking with Rajesh Balasubramanian, an experienced leader with over 25 years of diverse experience in the software delivery industry. Rajesh has had leadership roles in various areas including human resources, talent acquisition, workforce management, and skilling across leading companies such as Mphasis, Accolade, Cognizant, etc. Throughout his career, Rajesh has honed his expertise in delivering software solutions, managing and developing talent, and driving operational efficiency in the organization. His vast experience and leadership skills have enabled him to excel in various domains and geographies, making him a well rounded leader in the industry. In this podcast, Rajesh will share his insights on the importance of talent acquisition. He will also provide valuable advice on how to build and manage high performance teams, navigate the ever changing technology landscape, and drive innovations within organizations. So sit back, relax, and join us in this insightful conversation with Rajesh. Hello, Rajesh. Welcome on the show.
Yeah, hi Muskan. Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me here.
So it's a great pleasure, first of all, to have you on the show. And I would like to begin with my first question. So, shall we begin?
Sure, please go ahead.
So, Rajesh, my first question to you is you have had a long and successful career. So, would you like to share about your professional background?
So I'm a mechanical engineer, born and brought here in Chennai. And mechanical engineering was and always was a great passion of mine. So my initial few jobs and roles that I had revolved around mechanical engineering. And more on that hopefully during the podcast as well. But I my professional career has been specifically highlighted by my penchant to change roles. And because one of the things that I've always felt is that change is a catalyst to learning and success. Mm-hmm. And I sought out actively different careers and different roles to keep myself active in my own professional field as well. So much so to the extent that sometime in my career, I had a 1,000-day rule where I would want to change roles every 1,000 days, and the clock kept ticking the day I took on a role. So that's kind of slowed down a little bit now, but then that helped me definitely navigate my career of over 25 years and make it interesting and keep it going as well.
So since you have a great professional background, you have a successful career, so who in life acted as your role model?
Several actually, but I'll pick the top 3 or 4. Personal life, I think it's a toss-up between my father and my father-in-law. My father taught me, and both of them taught me the meaning of generosity and selflessness, and they gave up pretty much their entire life in the service of their families. And I've seen them how they work with their own in their own jobs. My father was with the IIT. My father-in-law was with CF Tires, and how their professional colleagues and their activities outside work helped me a lot growing up. Definitely. Along my professional career, I have to name 2 people that I would call role models. One was Don Smith, who was my boss when I was working in the US. Mm-hmm. He taught me how to live life to the fullest, how to be positive, how to be kind, and how to be grateful. I think those are very, very significant points by which I try to lead my life even today. And here in India, in most of my life has been with Cognizant in India. So in Cognizant, there was a senior colleague. His name was Jaideep. Jaideep Pundir taught me and continues to teach me how to be professional. He remains an example of how a professional should behave. Humility, magnanimity are qualities that I've imbibed from him. So These I would probably think are my biggest role models.
So, as I understand, you have a pretty busy life. So, how do you balance your personal and professional life?
Okay. That's a big question. Very small words, but big question. But in my opinion, right, I think if you enjoy both, you will never have the need to balance. That's what I've always lived by. You can attempt to compartmentalize it, like you have a different compartment for personal life and different compartment for professional life, but it's not possible completely because if you have a problem at work, it affects you personally. If you have a problem at home, it affects you professionally. So attempting to compartmentalize may not be possible completely, but draw boundaries, but build exception workflows. That's what I say and I tell myself. And because I mean, you can't have very rigid boundaries because whether you like it or not, your profession is part of your personal life, and your personal life is part of your profession. And finally, I think be self-aware and listen to what your brain tells you. If your brain is telling you that you're working too hard, it is true. If your brain is telling you that you're being lazy, it's true. So listen to your brain, take a break when you need to, because your brain knows best.
All right, Rajesh. So, my next question to you is, how do you stay motivated and maintain a positive mindset?
See, I feel the world is always in balance, right? And a loss or a failure never means it's a permanent thing, right? I think a lot of the times we get too bogged down by a loss or too elated by a success, and we suddenly kick our own lives out of balance. I think that is something that we need to be careful about. There's always light at the end of the tunnel, and there's a silver lining to every dark cloud. Uh, my advice is to wait for it, be patient, and it will come. Second, I think I've always tried to be very agnostic to what happens on the way to your goal and outcome. The minute you react, whether it's positive or negative, right, to something that's on the way to your outcome or goal, um, it wavers your focus and it hampers your progress, right? So I think your ability to keep your head down and be agnostic to whatever comes along the way. Like I said, don't be too elated in an interim success, or don't be too bogged down with a temporary failure, right? As long as you do that, I think your ability to stay motivated, and you will always have a positive mindset if you stay focused on your goal.
That is absolutely true, Rajesh. So, since you're successful at whatever you're doing in your career, in your field, so what one quality, in your opinion, is necessary to be successful?
Oh, there's more than one quality for sure. So, but I'll try to say and articulate what's been very important for me. Humility, gratitude, and kindness. These need great preparation, effort, and mastery, in my opinion, to imbibe in ourselves and practice by default. Right. Very difficult for humans, especially with the kind of environment that we are in. If it's not the right one, to have some of these things by default. In my opinion, anything else can be learned over time. But these three, if you have it, I think you will be successful.
True. So, since we are talking about being successful, so let's talk about achievement. So, what do you view as your greatest professional or personal achievement?
Oh, wow. Okay. Um, at a professional level, I think the taking the plunge to move across so many careers and roles, right? I think if I have to articulate them, I've moved from the armed forces to research to R&D to manufacturing to sales to IT software programming, then to human resources, talent acquisition, workforce management, and skilling. And then now I'm trying to make sense of all of those experiences and trying to make something out of it in my further jobs and career. I view it as a great honor and privilege to have been considered for these roles. And I look at it as my greatest professional achievement in having played all of these roles in my career so far. So I think that would probably be my biggest achievement. Personally, for those who know me from my previous avatar, I was a big couch potato, way overweight. And moving from that to being a runner and a fitness enthusiast, it's been a tough transformation to achieve. And insignificantly work in progress, I should say. I continue to work on my fitness. But then this year, I hope to run a full marathon finally. So I'm preparing for it. So hopefully that will be done. And that will be a big personal achievement for me.
Rajesh, I must tell you that I've talked to various leaders in their respective fields, and they all have one thing in common, which is their fitness, their passion for fitness. So they're passionate. So that's what keeps you going, I believe. You have to stay fit. If your body is fit, your mind is fit. So
That's absolutely true.
So, in your experience, what are some of the biggest challenges facing HR professionals today, and how have you addressed these challenges in your career?
Okay. Very important question, very pertinent question today, especially with the world going in so much turmoil. HR professionals, see, HR is a very umbrella role in profession and career. It encompasses so much. Uh, what I've seen in my career is very important challenge is to understand the needs of your role, because being HR could mean multiple different things. But what does your role really need for you to do? What are the goals and outcomes, and what is the purpose of that role? I think understanding the role is going to be very critical, and that is the biggest challenge, in my opinion, that faces HR professionals. Second, becoming data oriented. I think today's need and challenge at the same time is to use the data that you have, and your ability to contextualize the data to use in your job is going to be very critical, and that's a big challenge today, with the kind of or at least not today, but at least in a couple of years ago, it was a big challenge, and continues until we start to use some of the tools available today. And third, and very important, is outcome focus. I think today it's very easy for us to get into a role and be so consumed by the daily activities of the role, not understanding why we are there. So understanding the purpose, being data oriented and contextualizing your role, and being outcome focused. These, in my opinion, are some of the biggest challenges that and hurdles. They're not hurdles, but they're big mountains for all HR professionals to actually climb and conquer, in my opinion, to do their jobs well.
So, Rajesh, as a CHRO and with over 20 years of experience, what do you think are the most important qualities of HR leaders to possess?
This is something that I created when I was in Cognizant. This is something that I tried to evangelize as much as possible for HR leaders to possess. There are five specific areas, in my opinion, that HR leaders should specialize in as they grow up in the ladder. And it need not be all five. It could be one or two. And then as you grow up in the ladder, you need to definitely and essentially master all five. The first thing is operations excellence and domain knowledge, right? So your ability to stay on top of your operations, right? And whether it is an employee engagement program you're running, or whether it's a performance management program you're running, or it's a compensation exercise, a rewards program, whatever it is, your ability to stay on top of operations, your ability to ensure that particular program runs well is going to be very critical. And part of that is also the domain knowledge that you need. For example, let's assume you work in an automotive industry. Your ability to understand the domain in which your employees work in is going to be very critical, so that you can speak the same language with them. So that's number one. Number two is stakeholder engagement and management. It goes without saying. Your ability to connect with your stakeholders at all levels. And if you will, if I can divide the stakeholder population into three at least, at the bottommost, you have the people that execute, and in the middle rung, that you have people that that manage the people that execute, and also and also take direction from the management and ensure they convert that direction into specific actions. And of course, the management themselves, right? These are three specific dimensions, and your ability to connect across these three dimensions of stakeholders and engage and manage them is going to be very critical. And that's a very, very important part and quality that you need. The third aspect is program management. As an HR leader, you will be more often than not provided with large programs that you need to run. I mean, look at what happened in the last 3 years. Your ability to manage the COVID fallout, it's a big program in itself, and a lot of my HR colleagues did phenomenally well in their ability to actually come together and manage some of these things with a lot of sensitivity, with a lot of compassion, and their ability to actually keep their employees safe and their companies actually running is very commendable. The fourth one is innovation and technology awareness. And as a see, HR is as old as any profession that you know. I mean, there's no industry that can exist without HR. So and that obviously what that does is the ways of HR that we know are also very old, right? Not that there's anything bad with that, but your ability to continually keep innovating and adapting to technology. Today you have Chat GPT-4, you have some of these things coming up so quickly. So how do you adapt? How do you automate? How do you do some of these things? And by innovating new practices, by contextualizing whatever you have in the past is going to be very, very critical. And last but not the least, an HR leader should be a consultant and an advisor to his or her company and his or her management, his or her stakeholders. So essentially, that is a combination of the first four that I talked about. Their ability to master those four and be a consultant and an advisor to your stakeholders is a very, very important quality for you to imbibe. So these five, in my opinion, make a very, very rounded HR leader, Muskan.
Yes. So Rajesh, my next question to you is, you have seen likely a number of HR trends come and go over the years. So which trends have had the biggest impact on your HR strategies?
Again, technology, but I'll take a little step back. Digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation. I think all of them have evolved over the past decade. Digitization is nothing but putting all the manual writings that you have into an Excel or numbers and coding them. Digitalization is building apps around the numbers that you have, and digital transformation is moving into the next scheme of things with respect to using these apps to run specific processes and or enterprise processes, including automation, right? So I think this will continue. I mean, you saw the big the big noise that Chat GPT is making all around, right? And people are still grappling with respect to how to use them. But then, yeah, I mean, that's inevitable. And I think it's very important that all HR professionals definitely embrace it. That's the biggest trends, and the trends will continue. Industry 4.0 spoke about automation. Industry 5.0 will re-emphasize that, and it will pave the way for human-machine collaboration in addition to automation that we saw. And it will shine the focus on very qualitative aspects like ESG, environmental sustainability, and DNI, and bring very, very important aspects of hyper personalization, batch of one concepts to the fore. That's what I feel. These are the trends to look out for going forward in the future, is what I feel.
So Rajesh, you were talking about COVID, and I would like to ask you my next question, which is many organizations are currently grappling with the hybrid or fully remote workforce. So how have you managed your remote teams in the past, and what advice would you give to other HR professionals facing the challenges?
Remote and hybrid working is here to stay. I think my first bit of advice would be, don't fight it, right? Because I mean, if you go to an HR professional or any management professional and talk about remote working, and You probably either hear a very visible physical sigh, or you know that they're probably doing it internally and not showing it to you. But then there is some level of resistance towards remote working, and I think we need to cross that hump, right? So don't fight it, embrace it. Treat it like how you would any other employee related or infrastructure related policy that is already very mature, right? Today we don't have a very inherently built trust on our employees. I think, in my opinion, beyond all this hullabaloo of privacy and security and all of that, I think it's the trust factor that needs to be built. So in my opinion, the more visible scrutiny you put into something like remote working, the more pain that any organization will incur, in my opinion. Third, you take examples like laptop policy or internet access policy or entry exit policy using cards or fingerprint or whatever it is. All of this evolved over the last couple of decades, right? They all had their own resistance in the beginning. It's very, very similar what we're going through with respect to remote and hybrid working. I would definitely advise companies and HR professionals to embrace it. The trust will be built, if not already, as you go on. So I think that's my advice to everyone with respect to remote and hybrid working. Yes.
So, Rajesh, as a CHRO, you likely have a lot of experience hiring and developing talent. So how do you approach succession planning and talent development within your organization?
Okay. See, as I mentioned earlier, I used to have 1,000-day rule and a very passionate penchant to keep moving between roles, right? And that's a self-developed attribute. And I continued it until I moved on into relatively senior roles. But how I plan, I always start with a Pareto concept of my team. So there's always a 20% core team and an 80% flexi team. That's how I look at my teams. Based on the roles that they play, based on the seniority that they bring in. Rotation and replacements are planned from day one of anybody joining my team. Except that the tenure and parameters are very, very different. They're broadly based on whether they are in the core team or in the flexi team. For example, the flexi team rotates every 18 months. I find new roles for them outside, or some of them move into the core team as well. And the core team stays intact for, let's say, 36 months, 3 years. And then I find new roles for them, or then they move into much more leadership roles inside. So it also fosters a sense of, how can I say, a sense of competition inside, in a way, for not with each other, but with themselves, because they try to skill themselves. If they like what they're doing, they want to probably move into much bigger roles inside the team. So kind of does my job by default. My build versus buy on succession planning happens on a very continuous basis, right? And sometimes, like I said, the flexi team moving to the core. So I have a very clear idea of what percentage or which are the parameters I'm going to use to choose team members that I want to build. So I have a role in mind. Do I build from the existing team or do I buy from outside? So that's a decision I continue to make. At more senior levels, I have continuously used a very structured talent review process. And obviously using time-tested 9-box grids, dimension-based qualitative and quantitative measures, etc., that I've used for talent planning as well. It's worked very well. So I consciously looking at developing my team, and more often than not, that takes care of building my team as well, right? So I think once you nurture and develop your team builds itself.
So, Rajesh, I would like to talk about diversity and equity. So, in your experience, what are some of the most effective methods of fostering a culture of diversity, equity, and inclusion within an organization? And how have you implemented these methods in your career?
Very, very important question, and something that's also very, very dear and close to my heart. Some of these, although we're giving new words and jargon around it for diversity, equity, inclusivity, are very ingrained in most cultures, right? Especially in our culture in India, it is ingrained. we always have given importance to women in terms of our culture the overall equity and inclusivity in different forms, right? But my first recommendation and advice: look back to your culture, start the practice at home, and start working it to your work and office. Right? I think that's a very important thing. I have followed that. I've seen it at home, and I took whatever I saw at home to my work and office. So that's what I would start with. HR leaders lead from the front, right? Practice diversity, equity, and inclusivity very visibly at office, right? I think it's very important that we set ourselves some very clear goals and increase the awareness very consciously and continuously on these parameters. Finally, actions speak much louder than words. Put DEI into action with very trackable metrics. Bring KRAs and KPIs, put them onto your own goals, put them onto the goals of your teams as well, and to bring out very reasonable but very meaningful outcomes as well. I think, like I said, this is not a new concept to us and to pretty much all cultures all around the world. I think we're just interpreting it very differently as we go around, but extremely important and very critical for how we sustain ourselves as a workforce going forward.
So, Rajesh, I read in your bio that you talk about digital transformation. So, my next question is about that. So, digital transformation is a buzzword that is often discussed in the business world. And as a business, as a digital transformation evangelist, how do you see technology impacting the HR function in the future?
Okay, let me take something that is being talked about with so much buzz, ChatGPT, right? How is that going to help? So the way I look at it, technology will arm the HR function with context that is interpreted using the vast amount of data that hitherto was very difficult for us to interpret. So let's take a scenario, right? Employee walks up to HR and there is a question posed. HR tries to answer to the best of his or her abilities and knowledge, and with the data at hand, a lot of the times the answer could be, "I'll come back to you."
Yeah.
That doesn't resonate very well if you're the employee with the problem, right? That's a very dreaded sentence that anybody doesn't want to hear, right? "I'll come back to you." So today, technology and tools provide you with a very contextual answer to any question that an employee is going to ask you, because you are armed with that context. And that context is backed up with the data. And the data is interpreted by powerful tools and technology like ChatGPT. That's one. This context, so-called context that I'm talking about, will be very specific to that employee and the question that he or she is asking the HR person, right? And therefore, that HR person or HR leader is able to make very good decisions that are very balanced between the organization and the employees, and both of them benefit very sustainably. It's not, okay, I'll give you a hike and then go back and nothing happens. See, whatever actions, you need to be very sustainable and balanced at both ends, right? So I think it's very critical that technology enables that, and it will enable that. And obviously, beyond the above two that I mentioned, I think it's the ability to automate and collaborate with technology will greatly enhance productivity, right? Both quantitatively in, okay, I'm able to answer and meet X number of or X more number of people every time and every day than before, and also very qualitatively, right? Today, technology can throw up very specific action points on ESG, on DEI, on some of these very softer aspects that hitherto may have been forgotten or not have the context overall. Today, your ability to dissect your population that you have that is under your scope and say, this is my diversity index. This is the population that need more help in order for them to come to the same level playing field. That kind of data and context doesn't exist today, right? What may be needed for a particular demography in, let's say, a location like Chennai may be very different from what is needed in a location like Bangalore or Pune or Delhi, right? And therefore, your contextualization is possible by technology today, and it is instantly reproducible today. And definitely great time to be an HR person at this point of time, in my opinion.
So, Rajesh, I'm going to go on to my last question, which is what one mantra in life has helped you a lot?
Again, several mantras, but I'll tell you what resonates with me the most, right? This is something that my one of my mentors, Don, back in the US, taught me. Don't react, respond. Is what he has always told me. Be agnostic to the events during your journey and be very focused on outcomes and goals, right? Whether it's personal or professional. That's the mantra that I've tried to live by. I'm also human, so I also react sometimes and realize I'm reacting, but that's a start. But that would be really what I would advise for you to have a lot of mental peace for you to achieve success as well. All right. So thank you for the opportunity. This was great.
Thank you so much, Rajesh. And the mantra you just said, I think we should all follow. And being a youngster, I think I must do that. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for coming on the show. It was a great podcast, and I wish you all the luck and success.
Thank you, Muskan, for having me here.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Rajesh.
it. Cheers.
Thank you. This is Muskan, and I'm signing off.